last year.
Oh, really?
Meeting will come to order at the meeting will come to order.
No.
Let the record show that all council are here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, you may have some mail.
Tonight's meeting is being recorded. There is a correction to the published agenda. Item D under the agenda, the county annexation hearing is being, well, he's not here tonight to talk about it, so we're removing that, but we are going to continue to set the date down the road later tonight. So with that, we need a motion to accept the consent agenda as altered.
So moved.
Q,
Tie.
second,
Second.
all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? So moved.
Mayor, if I could, the presentations piece, you do have a member of the public who would like to speak under IF. Your presentations.
Okay, so we've added that to the agenda that there will be section I, request from the public to address council for 3 minutes. With that included, we can move on. Staff committee and agency reports. Anybody from the staff wish to report on what they did such a diligent job of putting it together for us? Questions from council?
I do, for, community development. I was curious, what was 2024? There was like 35 permits or something. And then in 2025, there was 276 permits total. I was just curious what the disparity between the,
That might be an error in the calculation. That's probably a monthly number. I'll have to look.
Okay.
That one. That. I'll.
that's okay. Yeah, you can email me. That's fine.
Under the code compliance, things are always pleasantly quiet, but I know we don't have any proactive code enforcement. It's still kind of one of our back burner goals to get a code compliance officer. Is that still is there your assessment as well?
We are still working on that position, finishing that up and getting it put out because it was included this year, so.
Okay.
Another one for you. You're like in the hot seat, I guess. Sorry. Just in noticing the developments you have in here, they seem to be kind of on point with where we have been growing as far as just quantity and location. Do you feel like that's slowing down at all? Do you feel like it's kind of on course as it has been, or any sort of?
Definitely speeding up.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
There are two new larger subdivisions. There's a short plat that just was approved. There's another one coming in. They're doing a pre-app conference probably in the next couple of weeks. So there, yeah, there's the increase. That
Do you feel like it's spreading out across different parts of the city, or do you feel like it's still mostly focused in the Northeast?
Northeast and south.
Down. Okay.
The Sunwest development.
Yeah.
And the Desert Plains area.
Okay. That's the only one I had off that one. Thank you.
Oh, anybody else?
I was going to ask on the police reports were really, really good. Very pleased with the numbers. Obviously, calls are down, arrests were up a little bit, and I think those are related. Obviously, you guys have been very proactive with that, so I was very pleased. I was kind of shocked with the state of Washington numbers in general versus the national average. Is Washington reaching the point where it's almost considered a high crime state?
Some of it you have to take with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Sure.
There's some finessing to make all the numbers kind of jive. And
Sure.
some of the stuff is missed, and Washington has some extra laws that they kind of fit in through the NIBR system to work. So it's not necessarily, it's supposed to be apples to apples, but there is a little discrepancy. So
Thank you.
and some of that.
And then on the, I don't know if that's more for engineering or public works, but any update on the water tower? Everything going good? Everything still on pace?
It's plugging away. Their last ring that was the sixth ring that I checked on, they completed that in about 4.5 days. And so they should be doing a course more than a course each week. And so they're, I think it's, so they determined there's 7 up at this point. There's gonna be 19 total.
19 total. That's what I thought too. It's, yeah.
So, looking at probably a mid-June completion for the actual welding of the steel, and then it'll be about a 3-month process to do the paint system on the inside and the exterior.
Nice.
So it should be in service late September, early October.
I've had some folks ask if we'd come up with a painting scheme. I can't remember what our discussions were on that. Did you guys?
Right now, the way that was bid out, it'll finish with an all-white coat. There's a $20,000 amount put in there to do a logo. That's not gonna do much of a logo. So, and I know that you guys are looking at the logo options. I think they're a little more detailed and small lettering. I don't think it would be a good option.
We were going to make it a high school project, so I think that'll cut the budget down just a bit.
Yes, but the actual painting of it,
We can't put those guys up there. Those kids won't like climb up that.
we shouldn't have any problems. I know there's a lot of concerns about vandalism and the tank being tagged, but the site will be fenced in. Dealt with a lot of reservoir projects, you know, that both in the city of Wells Lake and Othello, that really tagging hasn't been an issue. You fence them, the fence will have barbed wire on the top. And the paint is graffiti resistant, whatever, things up pretty good. So don't believe that's gonna be a problem, but we are to the point where we need some direction on what do we want to put on the tank. And another option that's been discussed is just the kind of the standard Ephrata E. That would be something that you can see from across town, and we could possibly do 2 of them where you can see it as you're on lake or instead of painting, they do have decals that you can put up that a big vinyl sign essentially that Moses Lake has done a couple of them. They were after I left Moses Lake, so but they've been happy with them, and they're supposed to have a life just about as long as the paint system. Cool. But we are getting to the point where we probably have to make some decisions that whether we're going to have our contractor put up the decal, the manufacturer of the decal has crews that go around and install those, but we need some direction on what the logo is going to be on the side of the tank, so I can start working on getting pricing.
Thanks, guys. Any other?
Mr. Mayor, can I interject for just one moment? I want to give a shout out to Jeremy and to Eric. For them to even get numbers to put these reports together this month was quite a feat for them. Bo can probably relate as well. There's some issues with Mac and what's going on with the reporting system that collects all those numbers. And right now they're having to work out of 2 different systems. And presented some challenges for them to do that, but I do want to give them a shout out for the positive attitude they've had over the past month or so regarding these challenges and the fact that they still went through the extra steps to make sure you guys got your reports.
Thank you. I like the photo of you guys. The fire chiefs, that was good. Nice touch. Can I just say one thing on the Parks and Rec one? The note in here about modernizing some meeting space is awesome. That's really good. We've been even just with Clarice looking for meeting space, and I've learned how little there really is across town for any sizable group. So I think that's a really smart move to help different businesses across the town. So thank you.
Programmed in there today.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
That'll help a lot, I think. There's all kinds of groups looking for different have different needs, looking for space. So yeah, thanks.
Great. I like that discussion. Any more? Yeah, great. Thank you. Moving on to section I, we did have somebody request to address council tonight. So Megan, per policy, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. A letter, I'm just gonna read directly. I was lucky enough to do lobby day in February, and I realized you could talk to your elected officials and tell them your story. And they have to listen, so that's kind of what I'm here to do with you guys, and I mean no disrespect to anyone. My goal is to make everything better, not worse. So, here we go. My name is Megan Diamond. I live here in Ephrata. I'm here today both as an advocate and someone with lived experience navigating our mental health and legal system. In 2023, I was a newly divorced mom of 4 working at the post office when I survived a violent crime that changed my life forever. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and over time, I lost my home, my career, and my sense of security. For 18 months, I traveled the country on my motorcycle, searching for healing, and eventually, with the help of a great doctor and a dedicated therapist, I found stability. In 2018, Ephrata officers assisted in SWAT teaming my house multiple times, once kicking in my door and taking our son at gunpoint in full view of my elderly mother and our neighbors. I was arrested twice in my front yard by the same sergeant and officer who was involved in my case from the beginning. In 2019, under oath, my ex-husband testified that he had me arrested twice on purpose to gain an advantage in our child custody case. The same day, an Ephrata sergeant testified to violating department policy specifically because it was me. The judge heard it, the prosecutor heard it, and nothing happened. In 2021, I had a panic attack and stepped outside my house so my son wouldn't see me. I sought help from a neighbor, but instead of receiving support, got involved, and I was jailed for 10 days in solitary confinement under COVID restrictions, enduring raw sewage, constant noise, and rotten food, despite the fact that I had no criminal record. It was punishment, not justice. What happened next was just as devastating. It took 14 months for my case to be dismissed, over a year of unnecessary court delays because the system failed to recognize my mental health crisis for what it was. But it isn't just about one crisis. The Ephrata Police Department played a direct role in a much larger pattern of abuse against me enabled by the county. My ex-husband, a chief deputy, used law enforcement as a weapon against me. One of the chief deputies sits on this very council, yet no one in power stepped up to stop this abuse or even acknowledge it. That ends today. This is deliberate indifference. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires an interactive response when a disabled person seeks accommodation. Yet every entity involved, including Ephrata Police Department, ignored my request. I applied for accommodations in court 13 times over 18 months before appointment of counsel. The moment I was finally appointed counsel, my ex-husband dropped his 3rd modification request, returned my children, and fired his attorney, and then Grant County took my attorney away. Your officers and your leadership have allowed a chief deputy to manipulate the legal system for personal gain, wasting taxpayer dollars and destroying lives. My public defender estimated that before my appeal, which I won in 2021, and my 3rd wrongful arrest, which was dismissed in 2023, the city and the county had already wasted over $500,000 enabling my ex-husband's agenda. How much more are you willing to sacrifice to protect the reputations of those in power? I am here requesting an independent investigation into the misconduct of the Ephrata Police Department and their roles in these abuses. I'm requesting accountability for every officer who participated in and turned a blind eye to what was done to me. I'm demanding an end to the deliberate indifference that has allowed this corruption to continue unchecked. We must have better supervision, better training, and the critical issues we face as a society today. This isn't just about me. This is about integrity of this city's law enforcement and the message it sends to every resident. If this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone, and it will unless you take action. I expect a real response, not silence, not excuses, a real commitment to investigating and correcting these wrongs, because if this council refuses to act, you're complicit in the abuse. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Megan.
I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Megan. Items for council consideration, the new logo discussion. You've all had many pages of logos. What do you think?
I think there was some solid ground to start from there. I don't know if did she feel like she got enough feedback from us?
Yeah. Okay. All of you or all but one of you gave us some feedback, so we appreciated that. Yeah.
So next phase, they're just going to bring back some narrowed down options or?
I think she's gonna present them online here.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That, no?
Just kidding.
Um. Apparently you'll get some new options next time, I guess.
new options?
Well, you'll refine from the feedback that you gave her.
Based on stuff I'd heard, I would not let that hold up the water tower question. If you want to put that on an agenda item sooner or what, I don't know what the phase for that is.
We're under a different deadline
Right. I'd agree.
here. Yes, I'm presenting them.
All right.
Yeah.
So while you're looking that up, Ray, what does council think should be put on the side of the tower? Nothing? Okay. We can do that.
I like the Ephrata E.
I like that.
I think that's simple,
Afraid of E.
Yeah.
easiest thing to do.
Agreed.
I was gonna say the logo, but
I mostly to make sure we are all thinking of the same E, but I think we are.
I think we're looking at the orange and black block E that's pretty standard throughout.
But is it gonna be
One
the
at the high
school
school.
approved orange E, because the school has specific orange,
We will talk with the schools because
just saying.
my understanding it is trademarked but I do know it drew it up, so.
I had a conversation with the superintendent. And he said if that was our request to grant us that permission.
So do we want just the 1, 2, 4?
Well, I'd like to get this up.
Are you ready? I'm just
Well,
getting,
Katie, you're gonna have to put that up there because I don't have a link to the meeting.
Katie is in the cloud, for those of you that are looking for her. Well, Sean, it kind of looks like we've got a little direction.
That seemed like a pretty simple discussion, but
Okay,
looking for some direction, but we wanted to wait until at
right.
least there was some progress on the city logo branding.
Okay.
I will start looking into in costs and for both painting it and also for possibly doing a final logo. Once we have the price for one, we can determine whether we want to do it on two sides of the tank. I would suggest two being the most because four doesn't really start blowing off.
Great, right.
Angles.
Agreed.
Do we get to sign the top before it gets put up?
I would say anybody, if you want to strap on price and go up there, you.
No,
No, she wants to do it before it goes.
Before it goes up.
No cheating, not done.
I'm sure somebody can develop a drone that can
Yeah, it's called a helicopter.
hold the Sharpie. That's where you put the logo on. Somebody flying over.
But that's a small crowd versus driving by.
True.
I got that this morning for when the other mayor got home from her workout. She said they want it on the top. How about it just get Target to pay for it? Then you've got it. Yeah. Jail and all.
That's the expansion of the city limits.
That's It's the whole property coming in.
Katie's gonna share her screen.
The important thing to remember is that technology is gonna make things quicker. I'll live with that.
Saving paper.
That's right, we're saving a tree.
Yeah, take a look.
Ooh.
I thought that we needed this one, so I don't know.
In a meeting.
Well, so,
Later
you
that
can see she has a couple of different reiterations. The popular choice, as you can tell, was originally something similar to the lower left corner of the first page. There's a couple different versions or possibilities of that based on the feedback you gave. We can print these out and let you take them. We'll have them printed for you this evening before you leave. And you can take a look at those, get us any other changes you might have with them. And we will ask you to select from a final group at the next meeting. If we come up with something you like, that could go on the water tower, or again, the E can go either way. As I shared, the superintendent said there would not be an issue with us putting the E up if that's what we wanted to do, so.
Right. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Ray. Any questions?
Actually, I was gonna say, not that we have an in-house logo expert, does anybody have any experience with problems of scalability? A lot of these things have to shrink down to phone size, et cetera, versus stuff that used to be.
Yeah, those are all things that we've considered in here. When you're using a logo, sometimes you use pieces of it.
Right.
They're distinguishable, but yeah, those are all things that we've tried to account for and.
All right. Any others? We shall move on. Annual Financial Report Review Committee. Ooh.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. So what we have here is we are working on our 2024 annual financial report, which is due on the 29th of May this year. We're trying to get a little bit of an early start on it, especially with Leslie leaving, hoping to get that finished up as soon as possible. So what I have done is Leslie has reviewed it. I have reviewed it once. We're probably going to review it at least 3 times. And what we are asking is if we could have 2 council members volunteer to review that financial report as well. We have some really nice checklists to go through, and I would be walking you through that. And what it is as the governing body, there is a question that says, did the council have a chance to look over this? Did they look over it? So we're just wanting to be able to check that box. And so we'd love to set up a time in April if possible, if we could get some volunteers. Leslie has said that she would come back for that to make sure that I've seen it once. So that'd be great.
I think everybody has had a chance. Have you been on the committee, Phil?
Last year it was, yeah.
Okay, I thought you
I
were.
think Phil and I did last year.
Okay.
Did
So-
a great job.
Sure. Before you raise your hand and run out the door, who would like to be on that?
Again.
Okay, Phil. Uno. All right, Kathy. Got it. We'll work with you. Set a time and a date. All right, thank you. The never-ending saga, the police vehicle purchase.
Yes, good evening. So as you know, in November, I asked you about purchasing a vehicle with 2024 funds that were left over from the police department budget. After that time, we conducted a search. Local dealers on the state bid, contacted Enterprise Services or their fleet services to try and find a 2024 that was available. Well, it was at the end of 2024, so the cars that were available had options and things that we did not need and kind of priced us out of those vehicles. So started looking at, well, we could get another Durango and started moving that way. As you know, in December, Barry's shuttered and there was no communication on the status of orders, any of that. During that time when it was being closed up, trucks showed up to take the inventory off sometime in there. Our vehicles got delivered. We didn't know that. We've been working with Stellantis since that point. And at that time, they had no idea where the vehicles got shipped off to. So they were searching for them as well. In the last month or so, we've experienced quite a few mechanical issues with the Dodges.
The in-house Dodges.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, our current stock. So we had an engine failure. We had another one that had a engine cooler failure that led to the top end going out. And then now there's a recall on some of the others for the oil coolers. We've got a couple of them that we can't use because there's a little bit of oil that's been found in the coolant, which is an indication that that cooler is failing. Chatting with Public Works, we've decided that maybe it's time to move away from Dodge. Part of the reason why we did that, it was a local business and we were trying to keep our tax dollars here and support our business. Now that we have to travel for maintenance and warranty work, sticking with Dodge doesn't necessarily, it's not as important. So we're starting to eyeball, and it appears from the research that there's fewer issues with the Fords. So I'm informing you that I wasn't able to purchase the 2024 with the 24 funds. We tried to move forward with the Dodges and that's been exhausted. And we'd like to move forward with replacing the Dodge with a Ford, which may require a budget adjustment in the future because we were planning on making that purchase in January, which we could use those 2024 funds. And then now we're in 2025 and we don't have access to them. Any questions?
Is there any remaining risk from Stellantis suddenly showing up and saying, here's your?
Well, when we kind of made the decision that we're going to shift towards the Fords.
Sure.
That afternoon, I got a phone call from Stellantis that they found where they were.
It's a miracle.
And requested where I wanted them to live. And I told them that we're moving away.
Okay.
And I listed the issues. Supposedly they're supposed to be helping with some of the current issues that we're having. Requested bid numbers to try and expedite. We had one that was sitting waiting for parts. Apparently there's a nationwide shortage.
Right.
And I haven't seen any parts. I haven't seen it sped up. So I don't know how much help we're getting. So.
Gotcha.
But there was no purchase contract. There's no strings attached. So.
Got it.
And then she took it as, okay, we'll sell them to somebody else. So.
Sounds good.
Wow. Any other questions? Do we have a time frame on an ETA if we do order the new one?
The guesstimate, if we get the order in, would be July. Okay. So I say that because they're in production, but even the dealers, his best guesstimate was July.
Any other questions?
What dealership are you talking?
Corwin out of Pasco.
Okay. That's better than the west side because of the tax purposes.
Yeah, the state redid their vehicle purchase contract, January 6th. Since it's all new dealers. It's kind of unusual. I've dealt with the state contract for probably 10 plus years, and I've never seen multiple dealers selling the same make and model. Currently there's 3 selling the Ford, so it can have a choice, and Pasco's the cheapest of the 3.
Good.
It's the difference in purchase value between the Dodge Durango and the Ford.
It's a wash. I want to say with the minimal options that we put in, I think it's about $500 cheaper actually. So, which going into 2025 and the new Dodge dealer, it looks like Dodge's prices have dropped as well. And I don't know if that's some of the stuff coming out of COVID and some of that stuff solidifying, but some of the prices have dropped.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Thanks, Eric. Nose to the grindstone. All right. Items for council action, notice of intent to annex.
Tonight we're looking at setting that public hearing, date for that land that the jail is on. We do have a notice of intent to annex, that is signed. We don't have the petition for annexation. That's been a struggle to get, completed and forwarded to us. But by the way we are doing it, this notice of intent does essentially the same thing as that. And so I'm going to turn it over to Anna to explain a little bit more how that is able to go forward.
Yeah, just on the statutory process for annexation of property into the city, there has to be the intent filed by the 10% of the landowners. The council has to accept the area of the proposed annexation, designate whether that land will be responsible for existing and future indebtedness, and then designate a zoning designation for that proposed parcel. In the annexation and development agreement that the city has previously entered into with the county, that kind of did that process for just the correctional facility. The county has subsequently requested their whole area up around the correctional facility also be annexed to facilitate that for potential purchasers in the future. And so because we haven't gone through that intent purpose, the council would need to take that action. And so the requested action is the motion to accept the proposed annexation subject to the adoption of a zoning designation of public facilities, require the assumption of existing city indebtedness, and set the public hearing on the annexation request. And then that will allow that public hearing to cover both this annexation request as well as that prior annexation request for just the jail facility. So very technical, but that's the recommended motion.
Boy,
Did you write that down?
Yeah, that summed up for me.
I would add for April 16th, 2020.
That was my next question of the date of the public hearing. Okay. So we need a motion to accept that short and concise motion that was just made by Anna.
So move.
Thanks, Phil. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Matt. Any questions? So basically what we're saying is we're annexing the whole chunk rather than just a piece and parcel of it.
That's the proposal. So the city actually won't be taking that annexation decision until after that.
Right, but that's the setup.
Yeah, I think it's 3 parcels in total.
Currently it is 3. It will end up being 4 by that time because they are in the middle of a short plat.
Is there any additional risk? Like, it wouldn't change anything as far as the city is concerned, other than just size of parcel, right? There's no like risk with allowing it to be that size at this point?
The real risk is that you have facilities to serve. So it's my understanding that also the water and sewer was designed to serve additional
Okay.
capacity. So I believe the infrastructure is in place to serve the expanded area.
Okay.
The infrastructure is in place. We're waiting on the annexation to go through to accept the improvements.
I'm trying to remember back to all the discussions we had on urban growth area, but that was always including that map in
Yes.
our applications, right?
It would be that whole area.
Right.
When we did the comp plan update, we did expand the UGA to that area, which we have to have that UGA boundary. Prior to any annexation. If we're outside that UGA, we could not.
Point being, these are all internal changes, not really an external change that we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so, and in defense of the county that we're working with on this, the gentleman that our liaison who we've been working with on this has been extremely busy over the last month and has actually been in Washington DC for quite a while. So we've kind of lost the tracking on that. So there's not a glitch or a what if or a yeah, but in the middle of it. It's just a scheduling issue. And that's why we took it off the agenda. He was going to be here tonight, but prior commitments kind of got in the way of this. So it's not there's not a hitch in the get along that's going with this. And the fact that we're establishing the date for the public hearing is more of a yeah, we're still on board and good to go with this. So just to make sure that there's not a shadow over all this, which is good. Okay, need a motion to accept that, and we got it. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Downtown lights.
Mayor, council, the purpose of this RCA is to approve recommendations made by Parks Commission to allow the chamber to update downtown lights and banners. Jenny Bates, the chamber president, came to the last Parks Commission meeting and proposed the idea that the commissioners were all in support of the plan. Josh and the chamber have been coordinating with Public Works to see what it would look like if it did end up getting approved. Christian estimated it would be about 2 full days of work. Staff's recommendations would be to make a motion to approve Parks Commission's recommendations to allow the chamber to update lights and banners downtown.
Thanks, Gunnar. Any questions? Need a motion to accept the proposal as given?
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. You okay with that, Val?
Mm-hmm.
In a chamber.
Yeah, it'll be nice because they're gonna do the new rope lights, I believe, on the actual light poles, and then we've got new banners coming to replace what we've got up now. They were getting a little bit faded, so
Very cool.
time for new stuff.
Just in time for the big hoopla.
Yeah, for the big grand opening for the new chamber office.
That's right. Softball field improvements. Gunnar?
The purpose of this RCA is to approve the Parks Commission's recommendations to allow Ephrata Enforcers Softball Group to renovate and refurbish 2 softball fields in the sports complex. The enforcers presented their proposal last week at Parks Commission meeting where commissioners fully supported the plan. The group has committed to fully funding and completing the project, which includes cutting the sod for dirt infields, applying turfus, installing bases, adding gravel behind the backstops, and setting up temporary fencing for tournaments. With over 10 tournaments scheduled this year, the additional fields will provide much needed space to accommodate more teams and enhance community events. Additionally, once renovations are complete, Parks and Recreation will have full access to the fields for our own programs and events. Pending approval, work could begin within a week and could be completed within approximately 2 weeks. Staff recommends making a motion to approve Parks Commission recommendations to allow Ephrata Enforcers Softball Group to proceed with their renovations.
Great. Thanks, Gunnar. Could you give us a bird's eye view of where they're going to be?
Yeah,
What portions?
it's on like the south end down there. They used to be softball fields. They're pretty much there still, but they're just getting refurbished.
Okay.
Yep, and I think to keep everything the same and keep the soccer people happy, I think we might have to just rotate one soccer field. I think it's pointing north to south right now and turn it east to west. And I think all the soccer fields just should be able to still stay there, and we should have 2 softball fields up and running with no other
Great.
issues.
Who's the organization that's doing this?
Ephrata
Enforcers.
softball.
Need a motion to accept the softball field improvements as given?
So move.
Thank you, Val. Second?
Second.
Oh, big fight. Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? So moved. Anything from the House of Ray?
Just a reminder, 5:30 tomorrow evening, Trent, here in this room.
So that pretty much, that does it for the public part of our meeting tonight. We will be going into executive session to discuss some legal counsel, litigation or potential litigation for about 5 hours. Well, maybe
Don't
less.
say that. She'll see.
Yeah.
We're looking at about half hour, maybe 30 minutes. Okay, we'll go with that. Otherwise, now's the time, boys. Thank you, everybody. Good.